thank you, Mr. Chairman. So thank you for inviting a witness that is both a business owner in Kansas and a Washington State resident to boot.
Well, for you and I to work closely together.
Yeah, exactly. And I do want to work with you on the manufacturing workforce issue that you and Senator Warner have introduced as it relates to helping keep the supply chain in aviation manufacturing. So I appreciate this hearing, and I know that we're all dealing with an increase in the number of cases and the challenges that we face. I'm very proud that our state has kept our rates of infection and hospitalizations down, and appreciate the ongoing efforts there. But I'm also impressed by the manufacturing efforts in our state, everybody working together. Outdoor Research converted one of its Seattle facilities into making surgical masks. They used to make outdoor equipment, and now they are making 400,000 surgical masks and 60,000 N95 respirators per week, creating 200 new jobs. Aerospace manufacturers Global Tech Plastics in Fife and Tool Gauge in Tacoma worked with Design That Matters and Redmond Nonprofit on other medical expert designs to help with the shields. And at one point in time, I know that Boeing was creating face shields as well. Kent-based Flow International produces high-pressure jet cutting systems and has delivered over 200,000 medical-grade face shields to the state, and nearly 40,000 different distillers, including the Chehalis tribe that had just opened up this great new facility, switched over immediately to hand sanitizer. So I feel like the American spirit is alive and well by these manufacturers who had adjusted their production levels. So I wondered if our witnesses, Mr. Volusia or any of the others, could talk about, obviously, we've had a lot of frustration here on the Defense Production Act, but what do we need to do to give clear indications to manufacturers that we still need this production level, and how can we gain their help now that we're seeing a spike again in this necessary equipment?
Could you please repeat the first part of the question, please?
What do we need to tell manufacturers? What kind of guidance directive do we need to give them to get these production levels up that we need because of the changing conditions we're now facing for the next several months?
If I may take this opportunity, the biggest challenge that we face is being able to sell. The two different channels that we pursued. One was to go after the opportunity to sell to governments at the local levels or the federal level. The biggest challenge we ran at there was, by default, the policy favored the lowest price, which just meant that the product that is being dumped into the United States is the default choice. I wouldn't say that we can't necessarily compete, and I'm not going to necessarily say that the American consumer has to pay a higher price. But before we achieve that levels of economies of scale, there is a need for the American manufacturing industry to be supported. And that is not going to happen over a day or two. It's a process. It'll help us scale, through which we have to build up scale to achieve the economies of scale. But the first helping hand could come from modifying policy to at least set aside a part of the procurement funds to go to American manufacturers. That'll help us put our roots in the medium term. And the second one, which is probably not super relevant right here, but is nevertheless affecting us significantly, is our organic growth is, unfortunately, it is stifled given the fact that we can't advertise directly to the consumer. The prominent search engines, Google, Bing, or social media like Facebook, Twitter, none of them really allow us to advertise because they're worried about price gouging. And the barriers that are established are making it difficult for us to establish ourselves, put our roots by reaching out directly to the consumer, at least. So,
But I'm pretty sure this mask I'm wearing right now, I'm sure it was gotten off of Amazon. So what do you mean? There are manufacturers that are producing supplies and they're unable to sell them because,
so the modern way, in general, if I wanted to reach the customer, would be to advertise on Google, maybe make it available on Amazon, and then send a link that would appear on Google and put an advertisement there, or maybe on Facebook. I come from the technology industry initially, so I worked to some extent on Bing, the search engine by Microsoft. All of these opportunities are blocked because the companies are worried, and rightly so, that there is price gouging practices that due to false advertisement and everything. So, but the matter of fact is that American manufacturers, once we have a company on American soil, we're completely traceable. So anything, I mean, it's not like we're worried, we should be scared of, or we are not so prone to, or we can't easily abuse the ability to sell to American customer like maybe others could.
yeah. So basically, we need something of a clearinghouse.
Yes, ma'am.
Besides the funding, then clearing, I know of another case, Mr. Chairman, of a point-of-care technology that just needed a little bit of funding to to go to scale on what would be, an airport, test within 20 minutes, which, for aviation would be incredibly important. So we do have these manufacturers that are trying to, so I agree with your first point about the funds. I agree that we should help with some sort of clearinghouse on making you feel comfortable that you can advertise these products. You need to know that they're going to be, that they meet a standard. Was there a third point on this?
That was it. And I tried, by the way, by reaching out to executives in Amazon. My partner, he actually worked for very long, but if for 3.5 to 4 months we find it difficult, we can't get into Amazon, then there's a problem.
Okay, so thank you. So basically funding and some way to make sure that you feel comfortable that you're meeting the standards, and then advertising that people will feel comfortable that you are meeting that standard. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.